Warren Edward Buffett was born in Nebraska, Omaha, USA on the 30th of August 1930. He was the second of three children and was the only boy. Buffett's father, Howard, was a stockbroker and also became a member of Congress. Even as a child, Warren Buffett had an entrepreneurial streak. One remarkable feature about him since he was a child was his uncanny ability to calculate columns of numbers off the top of his head. As a child, he dabbled in various businesses. At the age of 6, Buffett bought 6 packs of Coca-Cola from his grandfather's grocery store for 25 cents and then resold each bottle for a nickel, pocketing a neat 5-cent profit. He had started making money even as his friends were playing hopscotch and jacks. 5 years later, Buffett entered the world of high finance with his first investment in the stock market. He began working at his father's brokerage the same year. He purchased 3 shares of City Service Preferred at $38 per share for both himself as well as for his elder sister Doris. Shortly after the purchase, its value dropped to just $27 per share. Though he was rattled, Warren held on to his shares until they rose to $40. Immediately he sold them, but later he realized it had been a mistake. The shares value shot up to $200. This incident taught him one of the first lessons of investing: the importance of being patient. When he was 14, he and another student began installing pinball cables in a barber shop. Later, he spent his stake of $1,200 to start a band in which he played for 2 years. His education. At the age of 17, Warren Buffett graduated near the top 20 of his class from high school. He was not interested in going to college. He had already made a tidy fortune of $5,000 delivering newspapers. Buffett bought 40 acres of Nebraska farmland with his paper route savings at the age of 14 and collected rent from his tenant. But his father persuaded him to attend the Wharton Business School at the University of Pennsylvania. Buffett reluctantly agreed and studied for 2 years, all the while grumbling that he was more knowledgeable than his professors. When Howard lost the 1948 congressional race, Warren returned to Omaha after getting a transfer to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Working full-time, he completed his graduation in only 3 years. He applied to Harvard Business School, rejected him as too young. Feeling snubbed, Warren applied and got admission to Columbia, where well-known investors Benjamin Graham and David taught classes. It was a decision that would change his life. Warren decided to do masters in economics at Columbia, discovering Ben Graham. Ben Graham shot to fame in the 1920s when everyone else perceived the investment arena as risky as a game of Russian roulette. Graham pursued stocks that were very inexpensive and almost completely free of risk. In one instance, the stock of Northern Pipeline, an oil transportation company managed by the Rockefellers, was trading at $65 a share, but a scrutiny of the balance sheet revealed to Graham that the company had bond holdings worth $95 for every share. Graham tried to persuade the management to sell the portfolio but did not succeed. Later, he secured a spot on the board of directors by waging a proxy war. The company subsequently sold the bonds and paid the dividend in the amount of $70 per share. Ben Graham was also the author of Security Analysis, one of the greatest works ever written about the stock market. In those days, playing the stock market was a risky proposition and meant only for those who had nerves of steel. The stock market crash of 1929 had catastrophic consequences which persisted for some years. During this time, the Dow Jones Index had fallen from 381.17 to 41.22. As a solution to the volatility in the stock market, which confused and discouraged investors, Graham devised the principle of intrinsic business value, a measure of a business true worth that was completely and totally dependent on the stock price. Intrinsic value helped investors to calculate the exact worth of a company and make proper investment decisions. Another book, Intelligent Investor, which Graham Warren described as the greatest book on investing ever written, introduced the public to Mr. Market. The 21-year-old Warren Buffett was much taken up with Graham's simple yet profound investment principles. While going through an old edition of Who's Who, Warren discovered that Graham was a chairman of a small and obscure insurance company named GEICO. He caught a train to Washington, D.C. one Saturday morning to discover the company's headquarters. On arriving there, he found the doors locked. Undeterred, Buffett continued to knock on the door until a janitor opened it for him. Buffett inquired if there was anyone in the building. Luckily, there was. A man was still working on the 6th floor. Warren was taken by the janitor to meet him and immediately began bombarding him with questions about the company and its business practices. The conversation continued for 4 hours. The man who was at the receiving end of Buffett's question was Lorimer Davidson, the financial vice president. The experience would be cherished by Buffett for the rest of his life. Much later, he would acquire the entire GEICO company through his corporation, Berkshire Hathaway. Returning home, he took a job at his father's brokerage house and began dating a girl named Susan Thompson. Susan was born on June 15, 1932 in Omaha, Nebraska. Warren and Susan met through Warren's sisters Roberta Buffett, who was Susan's roommate at Northwestern University. Susan was a nightclub singer and an abortion activist. In April 1952, they got married. The couple rented a 3-room apartment for $65 a month, which was also home to several mice. It was here that their daughter Susie was born. Susan and Warren Buffett had 2 other children, Howard and Peter. In 1977, they separated after Susan moved to San Francisco to pursue her singing career. They did not divorce but remained friends and even took vacations together often. Some friends have also said that Susan felt smothered by all the attention received by the then famous Buffett. Susan died of a stroke in July 2004. Looking for work. In 1951, Buffett had graduated from Columbia. He wanted to work on Wall Street. He made an offer to work for Graham without pay, but Graham refused. Then he bought a Sinclair gas station as a side investment, but that venture did not take off well. He also worked as a stockbroker. After taking a Dale Carnegie public speaking course to conquer his fear of public speaking, he began teaching a night class at the University of Nebraska. Investment principles. Most of his students were aged 40 and above. He got the break he had been waiting for in 1954, when finally Ben Graham invited him to come and work for him at a salary of $12,000 a year. working for Ben Graham. Buffett and Susan moved to the suburbs of New York. Buffett joined Graham's company, Graham Newman. Here he picked up many of the stock market investing skills that made him famous. Buffett's main task was to analyze S&P reports, scouting for investment opportunities. At this time, his philosophy began to diverge from that of his mentor. Warren wanted to know how a company worked and the factors which made it superior to competitors. Ben was more interested in numbers. For Warren, the company's management was a crucial factor when deciding to invest. Graham was only bothered about the balance sheet and income statement. Corporate leadership mattered little to him. Between 1950 and 1956, Warren grew his personal capital to $140,000.